With that, it's actually now time for us to meet the industry's top tech heroes, as we call them, the CIOs, as they share their learnings, or for that matter, true experiences, and also get to brainstorm on how to build a resilient retail structure for the future. So we're also going to understand, considering that the role of a CIO has evolved after the Black Swan event called COVID. So let's actually understand all that and more in terms of resilient retail, as well as retail resilience that's been powered by AI. Considering that the stage is set, let me quickly go ahead and invite our speakers. First up, I'd like to invite our session moderator. We have with us Anuj Kejriwal, Managing Director and CEO, Anarock Retail. I'd like to please invite... Hi, Anuj. Hi there. Welcome back. And with that, let me also invite our speakers. We have with us Anil Menon, CIO, Lulu Group India, and Vikram Idnani, President and CIO, Landmark Group. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. All right, this particular topic, a very, very feisty topic. It's all about sink or swim, a year in the life of a retail CIO. With that, let me quickly hand it over to Anuj. Over to you then.
Hi, thank you very much. So, interestingly, I got this conversation going on sink and swim, a year in the life of a retail CIO. And, I had the pleasure of having these two esteemed, very intelligent speakers here. And I was somewhere wondering that am I going to sink or swim, as part of moderating them. So, some of the questions that we actually put up together, we were wondering that, I couldn't understand some of them. So I'm going to quickly jump to doing this. But before I really start, I'm going to probably pose the first question to Anil. And, a little bit for my knowledge, a little bit for the knowledge of the larger audience kind of sitting here. But, we have heard, she said the Black Swan event, there was COVID. A lot of companies kind of changed, became hybrid in many ways. Companies also exponentially grew over a period of time. With all of this really happening, Anil, what's the role of a CIO? And I want you to lay it in layman terms to say what is the CIO really needed for before we kind of jump into everything else.
Thanks, and very to the basics of it. From a CIO perspective, a CIO generally plays a role in layman's language, driving the strategy, having a thin line between what goes as a strategy and actually executing them and getting the output for it. So largely from that perspective, but very recently, or not very recently, for a period of time, the role of CIO has taken different shapes, forms, right? They are the strategy manager, they are the digital manager, they are all of it put together, right? That's where I see, from a layman's language, someone who can drive this thin line about concept to execution.
So, if I have to term this, are you saying that you're the chief strategy officer for the software and the hardware of any company? From that perspective, is that something I can say?
I'll answer that and I'll add to what Anil just said. So the role is really to understand business strategy first, right? And as part of the business, there are various functions that get involved, right? Right from, say, planning, design, warehouse management, storefront, and employees at the corporate office, for example. The role of a CIO there is to understand from business strategy, how will all of these different functions play into delivering whatever the business needs to deliver. For example, increasing number of warehouses, increasing number of stores, increasing number of options, and then look at technologies and solutions that can actually help to enable all of this. So it's really a role of understanding the business, understanding the functions, and understanding technology, and then being able to put them together and say, here's a solution.
With all of their limitations.
With all of the limitations and constraints that we have. And in fact, I'll just add one more thing, that COVID really kind of accelerated or changed the role of a CIO to some degree. Because pre-COVID, there were a lot of the technology guys tend to be more back-end, not very employee-facing and all of that. But COVID actually made us understand the demands of each function very closely and say, okay, how do I how do I help you to work remotely, for example, and continue to deliver? And a simple example of that is like the design function. Having designers work remotely, is something that wasn't even thought about. But with COVID, actually the tech teams had to sit down with them and understand, okay, what is it exactly that you do, and how do I allow you to make work remotely and still collaborate? So I think that's really what's happened. We've had to get a lot closer to the business with COVID.
Got it. And Bikram, both you and Anil, I mean, being CIOs of two very large organizations, I mean, Landmark and Lulu, uh, you've probably seen a lot of this world pre-COVID as well. And you'll be able to quickly tell us all the changes that have happened, probably post-COVID as well. I'm going to pose, quickly a few questions to both of you. It'll be nice to hear maybe some difference between how this world existed pre-COVID, probably some semblance on what's happened post. So I'll probably start with you, Vikram. So, omni-channel retailing's obviously been there for some time. We know it's got some technological challenges, but I mean, how do you really facilitate a seamless, customer experience across all these diverse channels?
Yeah, so omni-channel in very simple language, a lot of people would have heard of the term, buy online, return in store, buy in store, return online, and all of that. And that at a very high level is really what is omni-channel. But what omni-channel actually entails below that is a lot more detailing, right? So let's say I've got a customer who is buying online as well as buying in store. The customer is coming in both places. The same product, if the pricing is different of the product online and offline, then you have a problem because customer messaging goes for a toss. Similarly, when a customer is placing an order online, you want to know where to quickly source it from. Should I get it from my closest warehouse or from the closest store and deliver it to the customer, right? So visibility of inventory to a customer, visibility of all inventory to my customer for that same SKU across my stores and warehouse. So in very simple terms, there are some commonalities that kind of some common platforms or single sources of truth that we need to have to make omni-channel more seamless. That would be a single view of inventory, or inventory for the same SKU in my warehouse, in my stores. So I know where to source it from exactly at the fastest possible time. Another point to this is that I've got the same customer buying online, buying offline. I should have visibility that this is the same customer. I have to have one identity of the customer when that person's buying online and when that person's buying in store. So having that visibility, that enables you then to do some kind of cross promotions to the customer when you have that single view. And you know that this person bought online last time and now they're buying in store. So I can push them certain offers or certain messaging. So I think that's the whole thing, that you should have a single view of inventory, a single source of truth of the customer identity as well.
Got it. Thanks, Vikram. But Anil, quickly coming to you, and Vikram covered the offline channel, the online channel. But we've heard so many of these words. There's AI, there's blockchain, there's the Internet of Things. I mean, how does all of this really now transform the retail sector? And as your role as CIO, how do you harness the potential across all these technologies?
So I'll just have to start with saying that technology is the most easiest part in this whole journey, right? It's just more of a platform.
Trust me, a lot of us in this room, including me, don't understand it.
Yeah,
so don't make it sound so easy.
No, it's quite, if you look at it, that's different aspect to it, right? Getting a platform, doing stuff, that's pretty much. There's a lot of other aspects which goes in making this particular technology worth it. One, from setting a clear statement of goal, vision, on what do you want to achieve from a particular platform. And that's when then we come into place and say that, you know what, oh, AI looks better than IoT or a blockchain and so on and so forth. But having said that, from a technology perspective, our major thought process when it runs into this particular, how do I engage with which technology and how should I bring it on platform? There are three aspects. One is a human aspect of it. Am I having a good skill set internally, and is the organization good enough to take this as a culture? That's one part of it. Second part of it is, okay, now I know this can be done. Can I innovate? Am I on a cloud or am I on-prem? So this looks jargon from an IT perspective, but yeah, this is something very simple methods to test your concept and make sure that your customer is reaping the benefit of it, or internally your employees are reaping the benefit of it. And the third, but not the least, but is the commercial part of it, which always comes in and say, which one really works for you.
So that's interesting what you
Anuj,
say.
let
So
me, Anuj,
again,
let me
what I
just come
gather
in here.
from everything that you're
Let me
saying.
just come in here. I want to add a little bit to what Anil just said. I think that might just add a little bit value for the people out here. And a lot of folks who are non-technology people, right? When you take, when you like, let's say get into IoT, you've talked about RFID, for example, or we're talking about AI or any such new technologies or new techniques that are coming in. I think Anil was referring to the fact that tech is the easy part to implement. It's about defining the vision. How am I going to use this? Okay. So today, if I throw up a question to anyone saying RFID, how will I use RFID, right? I think that's important for a non-technology person to understand what is RFID and where all I can use it. And there are various examples which we can talk some other time on where all RFID can be used and what benefits it will actually give me. So I'm just saying, understand the tech, draw the vision, and then the tech is implemented.
No, so I mean, I'm gathering what both of you are saying, that unless you build a vision on what you want to achieve, then you're really tailoring the journey through tech. Uh, okay, with tailoring, Vikram, I'll move back to you. Landmark as a group, present across multiple countries, and at some point of time, India's, I mean, a lot of countries put together in my mind, and you have to start to tailor experiences for customers. Uh, you know, how does tech, data, I mean, how does all of this really help to deliver that personalized shopping experience?
Yeah, this is a 2 hour long answer that we can have to it.
We're trying to keep this
Very
as a
difficult.
fireside
Yeah, I'm
chat.
saying very difficult to personalize for the customer. What I can say is that what retailers, first on the tech side, there's tech and data. Okay, so first let's say on the technology side. I think to bring in better engagement for our customers, there has to be a set of digital experiences, because a physical experience with a nice store with great ambience, very important. Um, but one has to appeal to the various senses of the customer. So let's say I'm walking into my store, my eyes, I've got various 5 senses, right? My eyes, my ears, my smell, not taste of course, but taste in case of food, but yeah. So I have to be able to appeal to the different senses, and digital with good content, digital screens creates a good experience for a customer and helps them to kind of engage a little bit. So that's important. If you go to various coffee shops, you will realize that as you enter inside, you get a nice smell of coffee, okay? And that kind of gets you to say, okay, I'll grab a coffee out here, or even when you're just outside. So appealing to the senses of the customer is important. So think about it in your context and say, what are those things I can do? So technology, I said, digital screens and all of that is very important. Once a customer comes into the store, then again engaging digital, meaning I'm looking for a certain product, I'm not able to find it, okay? So how do I, so if you have a digital experience over there and very simple for a customer to say, okay, is this product in the store or not? Or show me similar products, where are they in the store? So having an experience that technology again used over there. So technology physically can be used in these forms. Data on the other side, since we're talking now about all across India, right, for example. So every time an order comes in from a different part of the country to my on my online platform, I should be having an ability to collect customer feedback, first thing, an NPS, what we call as an NPS, Net Promoter Score, right? I should be able to capture one or two questions which are relevant that will help me to identify this customer better or know why that customer bought or rejected this product. So doing a good job of collecting that data is important and having various listening posts through the whole process. So if the customer has the app, find ways to send notifications where a customer has to respond. One question, one simple yes or no type of answer. You don't want to engage them in a survey, but a yes, no type of an answer that helps you collect data. So basically set up various listening posts to collect data about the customer and then mix it with their transaction journeys, online, offline, I mean, transaction history. And then use, of course, analytics to come to really what this customer might be liking. That's how I would look at it. Yeah.
Got it. So Vikram, you pick up an interesting point on customer data, and you know, I'm going to probably give you a bad question right now, and I think relevant to a lot of people here. I'll relate it back to retail, but I'll tell you where I'm coming from. We happen to go to all these buildings and keep giving our data, and I don't know where that data kind of eventually lands up going, and then you get these host of messages and calls, and I mean all kinds of stuff happens. I think my question is to you, and I know that some customer data is required for enhancing the shopping experience. There are insights that you get out of that data, and I mean a lot of benefits of it. How do you safeguard that customer data? I mean, how does any customer sitting here or anyone visiting your store feel safe that I'm giving this data to? And I'm saying it specifically for a Lulu or a Landmark. I'm not saying what an office building or something does, but how do they know this data is safeguarded for?
The first part is where you rightly said we keep on giving data. So whatever you're creating is you're creating silos. So data is kept here and there and out there. So protecting this particular data in silos is quite difficult. You never know which one is going to lose for you. So what the first part you do is you consolidate this data into a single entity and try to build your circles around that, the security circles.
Firewall in tech
Yeah,
terms, what I
yeah,
understand.
yeah. It's more like that. So I'm not coming to the word called as CDPN or customer data platform and all of that. It's just purely consolidating data in a single location for better protection. One. Second, when you look at it, you have a continuous governance model around this data which you're carrying. See, today what data is relevant to you about a customer may or may not be relevant in quite point of time, right? As a journey goes by. So you actually need to know what do you want to shut off and what do you want to keep it with you and on a live environment to play around. The more you have, the lesser you have exposure, the lesser the hit for you from an external force of it. So that's the two elements which we generally carry. Don't keep it silos, but also make sure that it's gone to a governance model with a particular journey to your data. The data can be classified, and you say how it works for you.
That's a really complicated answer, but I will try and understand this better after this chat. But Vikram, I'm going to come back to you on. He spoke about silos, and retail is also about front end and back end, and we continue to see these supply chain challenges. There's always something affecting it. Could be a strike, could be COVID, could be anything of that sort. Really from your perspective, how do we use technology to kind of bolster, I mean, some kind of resilience and agility to the supply chain?
Yeah, so I think with the pandemic, we realized, for example, China shut off they came out with a zero or a no COVID policy kind of thing, right? Where they shut all of their ports down. Huge number of retailers got impacted because China shut down. Russia and Ukraine got into this war, right? Massive impact on various retailers because of maybe food that we were importing from Russia and stuff. So I think what this has brought out to everybody is that my supply chains um, have to be kind of flexible. Meaning today I'm working with one country or one region or one vendor, but I have to be able to move to another one fairly easily. I think that has hit hard to everyone. And supply chains worldwide, if you do a little bit of research, have gotten reorganized after that, right? To be able to have multiple partners or work with multiple regions, number one. Number two, come closer to my selling place, wherever I'm going to sell. So come closer to my, under my nose, really. So I think that's one important thing from a supply chain reorg point of view. If I now move on to the technology side of it, see,
Sorry, Vikram,
even
just on the
within,
first part, I have
yeah,
one additional question.
yeah.
You know, when you say that you bring resilience and agility to switch fast between supply chains, I think also for the larger audience, what I want to ask is, does that also entail a higher cost on the back end? Or are we able to maintain it at the same cost when you bring in that flexibility?
Of course, there are economics involved in it, and those decisions have to be taken by a company based on whether it's more expensive or not. Um, Let me take an example of India, for example, right? Let's say we were importing various things from, let's say on the apparel space, we are importing a lot from China and Bangladesh and maybe other countries. And of course, we are manufacturing a whole lot. India has a massive manufacturing of apparel in India. But retailers who were only focused on importing from China or Bangladesh have now also looked at vendors in India. So maybe economics may suffer or may not suffer. Quality will have to be taken care of. What you get from China and what you manufacture in India, there could be a difference. So I think there's no clear answer that whether it's cheaper or more expensive, but it's subjective. It's a case by case kind of a call. The aim is to move as much closer to yourself so you can control it better. You're not left at somebody else's whims and fancies.
Got it. No, perfect. Sorry, guys, we've got time for maybe one question. And again, my favorite question. I think, Anil, I'm posing some of them to you. So, I mean, we spoke about it. We run a prop tech real estate company. We have a really hard time keeping talent. Okay, and I'm happy for both of you guys to answer this. How do you keep tech talent in today's world? I mean, with this kind of, competitive marketplace, what is it that you can really do to keep tech talent? Oh, I would love to know how Lulu does it.
So that's like a guru mantra as of now, if you have to, at this point of time, right? The,
Unless you're doing all your month's needs are supplied by Lulu.
no, now we have gone back to the old basics. Go to kindergarten, get the kids there, and then build up. So what we do generally try to do is, everyone is aware of it, that tech talents are way too scary out here right now. We try to get freshers or juniors, if you have to call it, and then upskill them to a different level. Also try to look at internally how many of your employees who have been sticking around with you, how can you upskill them? It's not only that now, it's not just an IT team who has to create everything, right? There are other functions who are willing to join in. Say, for example, there was never called as a digital marketing team kind of thing. But if you get a digital marketing guy and he wants to learn more on the social media and, like, say, for example, the platforms, marketing platforms or MarTech, we'll get them on board there and start getting up with them. Also, we need to collaborate a lot. What we have started doing now is that we have started reaching out to partners who are boutique in nature in terms of tech, or they are large-scale partners who can help us go this growth journey which we are going through. So more of a growth partner, if you have to call out. So this is a mixed bag, depending on situations, depending on at that point of time what's your priority running around. And that's why when one of the statements which I spoke about, saying being in cloud, having an innovation on cloud is easier because you get faster people out there, your cost to experiment is too low.
No, so I get it. So I think I hear you loud and clear. I think being fluid is probably what you're saying. I mean, I also heard that you're saying a lot of outsourcing kind of needs to happen. But I think with that, we're going to run out of time. But I think two, three great uh, learnings again from my perspective. I think it's important to understand that tech is probably a path to the vision. Uh, and with that, I'll probably say something that Vikram explained that as a layman, we find tech very complicated. Sometimes, when we hear tech, we're like, this is really complicated. But it's also actually a source to probably an easier end from that perspective. And I think that's something which, at some point the larger audience needs to kind of accept. So I think with that, we'll probably end this session. I think thank you very much to Vikram and Anil, and thank you to this crowd for hearing this out. Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thanks
us.
a lot.